Your past doesn't define who you are. How you confront it does. Imagine this. You've done the hard work. You've left behind the mistakes, the regrets, and the painful chapters you once wished you could erase. You've found peace. You've healed. And now you're ready to move forward. But suddenly, out of nowhere, someone drags the past back into the present. They dig up a memory you thought was long buried, and they twist it into a weapon meant to wound. That feeling, that sting of betrayal, when someone reminds you of who you were instead of seeing who you've become, that's exactly their goal. They crave your reaction. They want the control. But what if there's another path? What if you could turn their attempt to hurt you into a source of power? What if the very thing they use against you becomes your strength? Because the truth is, your greatest weapon isn't anger or defense. It's your response. Today, I'm going to show you how to face the people who try to use your past against you with unshakable calm, clarity, and strength. Here's what the Stoics taught us. It's never what happens to us that defines our character. It's how we respond. When someone tries to reopen old wounds or pull you back into pain, your response becomes the moment that shapes your future. If you're ready to reclaim your story, to respond with wisdom instead of emotion, you're already taking the first step toward mastering your mind and transforming your life. When people bring up your past, the first instinct is to deny it, to push it away, to pretend it never happened. We've all done that, trying to bury mistakes and regrets so deep that even we can't find them. But denial doesn't erase the past. It only gives others power to resurrect it whenever they choose. That's the real trap. By refusing to acknowledge your past, you hand others control over it. Here's the part most people never realize. Your strongest response is simple acceptance, saying calmly, "Yes, that happened." There's immense power in those words. No excuses, no guilt, no shame, just truth. And when you stand firmly in that truth, you strip away their power. Their words lose their sting because you've already owned your story. It's not about glorifying mistakes or pretending they were right. It's about accepting that they taught you something valuable and that you've evolved. The Stoics believed that freedom isn't found by fighting your past, but by embracing it. Marcus Aurelius said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, the very things we wish to forget often become the catalysts for our greatest growth, but only when we stop resisting them. When you can look at your past with honesty, without fear or shame, it stops controlling you. What once felt like a wound becomes your source of wisdom. It's never about erasing the past. It's about making peace with it. We all have parts of ourselves we try to hide, mistakes we wish had never happened, choices we'd rather forget. It's almost instinctive. Our ego wants to protect us from embarrassment, from vulnerability, from judgment. But here's the truth. The more you deny your past, the more power you hand to others. You give them the right to shape your story for you. When you stop resisting, when you finally accept that your past is part of who you are, you reclaim control of your life's narrative. You stop letting anyone else hold the pen. Think about it this way. When you're willing to say, yes, that happened, you stop running from your history. You stop letting it control your every move. Instead, you allow it to teach you, to shape the person you've become today. The Stoics never ran from their failures or flaws. They confronted them head-on and used them as fuel for growth. When someone points out your past mistakes, they usually want to provoke you. They're looking for a reaction, hoping you'll feel small, defensive, ashamed. But when you stand firm, owning your past without needing to justify it, their power fades. Your calm acknowledgement becomes your shield. By accepting your history, you remove the sting from their words. You're not denying what happened. You're simply not controlled by it anymore. So next time someone tries to use your past against you, remember, acceptance is your greatest strength. When you stop rejecting your story, you free yourself from its weight. You turn what was once painful into a symbol of your growth. This doesn't mean you have to feel proud of every decision or happy about every mistake. It just means you stand firmly in the truth of who you are, fully aware that your past doesn't define you. Your response to it does. It's tempting to hide, to pretend certain things never happened. But when you face your past without shame, when you can say with confidence, yes, that happened, that's when true freedom begins. You take back control. You become the author again. What once held you down now pushes you forward. And to others watching, your acceptance becomes a visible strength. They can't use your past as a weapon anymore, because you've already made peace with it. You've already moved beyond it. Personal growth doesn't begin when you start fixing mistakes. It begins when you stop running from them. Embrace your past. Own it. Learn from it. And watch how it transforms from a burden into a foundation of power. There comes a time when your past stops being something you escape and becomes something you stand on. We've all acknowledged our regrets, our failures, our lessons. But the true shift happens when we stop viewing them as chains and start seeing them as stepping stones. When someone brings up your past and you feel the urge to defend yourself, ask this: what if the best response isn't, "That was a mistake," but instead, "I've learned from it"? That one change in language changes everything, because it shifts your past from being a mark of failure to a mark of growth. Saying, "I've learned from it," doesn't mean you're proud of what happened. It means you've found purpose in it. It means the things that once broke you now build you. Here's the final truth. Becoming unshakable doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you no longer let your emotions control you. The Stoics felt everything: pain, loss, fear, love. But they learned to rise above reaction. They didn't suppress emotions. They mastered them. Because emotions are natural, but chaos is optional. You can feel hurt without staying broken. You can feel anger without losing control. You can feel sadness without surrendering your strength. That's emotional discipline. The art of staying grounded no matter what storms surround you. When life tests you, when people misunderstand you, when the past tries to haunt you, return to your center. Breathe. Reflect. Respond with intention, not impulse. Because peace isn't something you find, it's something you build, moment by moment, choice by choice. And the more you practice it, the more unshakable you become. Every test, every loss, every betrayal, it all becomes training. Training for strength, training for clarity, training for peace. And one day, you'll look back and realize nothing external holds power over you anymore. You've faced storms and didn't collapse. You've lost people and didn't lose yourself. You've been misunderstood and still chose peace. That's what it means to live stoically, to stand tall in chaos, to remain calm in noise, to be kind even when it's hard. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You just need to live your truth with quiet strength. Let your peace speak for you. Let your actions define you. Let your calmness be the loudest thing about you. Because in a world that wants you to react, staying calm is the ultimate rebellion. You've learned. You've healed. You've grown. Now walk forward, not as who you were, but as who you've become. Unshakable, peaceful, free. Sometimes the people who hurt you the most are the ones who taught you the most. Not because their actions were right, but because their behavior forced you to grow, to see what you'll never tolerate again, to understand the value of peace, and to learn the importance of boundaries. The Stoics believed that every obstacle carries a lesson. Marcus Aurelius said, "The impediment to action advances action." What stands in the way becomes the way. It means the very things that seem to block your path often become the path. The betrayal, the loss, the heartbreak, they weren't meant to destroy you. They were meant to refine you. Those experiences built your resilience. They revealed your strength. They showed you what truly matters and who truly matters. So instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" start asking, "What did this teach me?" That shift changes everything. It transforms pain into wisdom and turns suffering into strength. You start realizing that even the darkest moments served a purpose. They pushed you toward clarity, self-respect, and understanding. The people who lied to you taught you the value of honesty. The ones who abandoned you taught you self-reliance. The ones who disrespected you taught you the importance of boundaries. Without those lessons, you wouldn't be who you are now. And that's what Stoicism is truly about. Not escaping pain, but transforming it. When you stop resenting the people who hurt you and start appreciating the lessons they brought, you reclaim control over your story. They no longer hold power because you've turned their cruelty into your growth. Remember this: some people were only meant to be chapters, not the whole book. Their role in your life was to show you what you needed to see, and then exit. You don't need to hate them. You just need to thank the lesson and move on. Because the lesson remains even after they're gone. That's how pain becomes purpose. That's how suffering becomes wisdom. There's another Stoic truth most people overlook. Not everyone deserves access to your energy. Your peace is sacred, and when you start protecting it, you'll notice something. People will call you distant, cold, or detached. But detachment isn't coldness, it's clarity. It's choosing not to engage in drama, not to argue about things that don't matter, not to drain your spirit for those who feed on conflict. The Stoics practiced what they called apatheia. Not apathy, but freedom from destructive emotions. It's about seeing clearly without being controlled by your reactions. You stop letting people pull you into emotional storms that aren't yours to weather. Because not every battle is worth fighting, and not every opinion is worth addressing. When you master detachment, you stop reacting to everything that tries to steal your peace. You become calm, not because life got easier, but because you grew stronger. Silence becomes your response. Calm becomes your revenge. Peace becomes your proof. That's emotional mastery. That's Stoicism in action. And the truth is, your calmness will bother people who expect chaos from you. They'll push harder, trying to trigger the old version of you, the one who used to react, argue, explain. But when you stay centered, when you no longer give them that reaction, they lose their grip. They realize you've evolved, and that scares them. So, don't mistake detachment for indifference. It's not that you don't care. It's that you care differently now. With wisdom, not impulse. You care without losing yourself. And that's how you protect your peace in a noisy, chaotic world. Forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes it simply means choosing peace over pain. The Stoics understood this, that forgiveness isn't about excusing someone's behavior. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional weight of resentment. Because every time you replay what someone did to you, you give them space in your mind. Space they no longer deserve. Seneca wrote, "He who suffers before it is necessary, suffers more than is necessary." Holding on to anger, regret, or bitterness is exactly that. Suffering more than necessary. When you forgive, you're not saying, "What happened was okay." You're saying, "I refuse to let what happened define me any longer." Forgiveness is an act of strength, not surrender. It takes courage to let go, to look at the pain acknowledge it, and still choose to move forward. Because resentment chains you to the past. But forgiveness sets you free. It allows you to reclaim your energy and redirect it towards something far more meaningful, your peace. And peace is what the Stoics valued above all else. They believed that the quality of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts, and thoughts soaked in bitterness can never bring peace. So, forgive not because they deserve it, but because you do. You deserve the quiet that comes when your heart is no longer at war with itself. When you stop expecting apologies that may never come. When you stop waiting for closure from people who thrive on chaos. That's when you truly begin to heal. Forgiveness is closure you give to yourself. It's saying, you no longer have control over how I feel. It's choosing to rise above what hurt you, rather than sink beneath it. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best way to avenge yourself is to not be like the one who wronged you." And that's the essence of Stoic forgiveness. Rising so high in your self-control, in your peace, that nothing external can drag you down again. You can't control what others did. You can't rewrite the past. But you can control what stays in your mind. You can decide what deserves your energy and what no longer does. So, let go. Not for them. For you. Because when you forgive, you're not forgetting the lesson. You're simply releasing the poison. You're freeing yourself from emotional captivity and stepping fully into the present moment, the only place where peace exists. Remember this: forgiveness isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It means you're done letting pain rule your mind. It means you're strong enough to move on, and calm enough to not look back. So, forgive. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Because holding on keeps you stuck, but letting go sets you free. One of the hardest lessons in life is understanding that you can't control other people, their thoughts, their actions, or their opinions. You can't make someone see your growth. You can't force them to understand your journey. And you can't convince them to see you differently if they're committed to their old version of you. But here's the truth: you don't have to. The Stoics remind us, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Most of our pain doesn't come from what people do. It comes from the stories we tell ourselves about it. You can spend years trying to prove your worth to people who only remember your mistakes. Or you can use that same energy to keep evolving quietly. Because the moment you stop chasing approval, you begin reclaiming your peace. Let people misunderstand you. Let them cling to old chapters you've already outgrown. It's not your job to rewrite their perception. It's your responsibility to keep becoming better. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That's the essence of Stoicism. Stop talking. Start becoming. Don't explain your transformation. Embody it. People will notice your growth not because you shouted about it, but because your actions, Your calmness and your presence make it undeniable. Remember, those who constantly bring up your past do so because it's the only version of you that makes them comfortable. Your growth threatens the stability of their story. It forces them to confront their own stagnation. So when someone refuses to see your evolution, don't take it personally. Their blindness isn't your burden. You've already moved on. They're just catching up. You don't need to convince them that you've changed. Time will do that for you. Consistency will. Discipline will. Every day you choose peace over conflict, growth over ego, and purpose over validation. You're proving it, not with words, but with your life. And that's something no argument could ever achieve. Understand this deeply. Those who truly matter will recognize your growth without you having to announce it. They'll see your calmness, your restraint, your humility, and they'll know you've evolved, you've learned, you've become something more. So, release the need to be understood by everyone. Most people are too busy projecting their own insecurities to truly see you anyway. When you stop needing their validation, you set yourself free. That's the freedom the Stoics lived for. The freedom from needing anything outside of your own mind to be at peace. Because peace doesn't come when people finally approve of you. It comes when their approval no longer defines your worth. You control only one thing: your response, your mindset, your effort. Everything else, opinions, gossip, misunderstanding, belongs to the world, not to you. And once you accept that, you stop wasting energy trying to manage what was never yours to control. You start channeling that energy into something real: your discipline, your purpose, your growth. That's where your strength lies, not in trying to be seen, but in being centered. You become untouchable, not because no one can reach you, but because nothing outside you can shake you anymore. So don't fight to change their view of you. Just keep walking your path. Let your peace be your proof. Silence is one of the most powerful tools you possess. Most people fear silence. They rush to fill it with words, explanations, or apologies. But the Stoics understood something deeper. Silence itself is strength. When someone tries to provoke you, when they drag your past into the present or throw words designed to make you react, your silence becomes your shield. Because silence speaks in ways noise never can. It says, "I'm not here to play your game." It says, "You don't control me anymore." It says, "I've evolved beyond the need to prove anything." There's immense power in not responding. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." When you stay calm in the face of provocation, you've already won. You've refused to descend into their chaos. You've chosen stillness over reaction. This is emotional mastery, the kind that Stoicism teaches, not through words, but through presence. Because silence is not weakness. It's awareness. It's emotional intelligence in its highest form. When you stay silent, You force the other person to sit with their own words. Let them hear the echo of what they just said. Let them feel the weight of their own intentions. Your calmness will speak louder than any argument ever could. It's not that you don't have anything to say. It's that you no longer feel the need to say it. When you've made peace with yourself, you stop seeking validation from others. Their opinion no longer defines your sense of worth. That's the ultimate freedom, when your peace is no longer negotiable. You start realizing that not every situation deserves your reaction. Not every accusation requires your defense. And not every comment deserves your energy. Sometimes, the most powerful response is no response at all. Seneca said, "Anger, an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured." When you react out of anger or hurt, you harm yourself first. But when you respond with silence, you protect your peace and preserve your energy. Silence gives you time to think, to observe, to understand. It transforms what could have been chaos into clarity. And that's when you realize you don't need to win arguments. You just need to stay aligned with your values. If you know who you are, if you've accepted your past, then no one's words can shake you. So, when someone speaks with the intention to wound, let your silence be the answer. Because silence is not the absence of power. It's the presence of mastery. It tells the world, I am in control of myself. And that level of control is something most people never achieve. In a noisy world, silence is rebellion. It's how you reclaim your strength in moments that try to take it away. So next time someone tries to bait you into reacting, pause, breathe, say nothing. Let your calmness unsettle them. Let your peace confuse them. Because when you stop reacting, you stop giving away your power. Your silence will say everything that needs to be said, and it will echo louder than any argument ever could. When someone tries to pull you back into your past, your first instinct might be to defend yourself, to explain, to argue, to prove you've changed. But what if the most powerful response wasn't a reaction at all? What if, instead of getting emotional or defensive, you simply asked, "Why are you bringing this up now?" It's such a simple question, yet it completely shifts the dynamic. Because the moment you ask it, you take control of the situation. You step out of their emotional game and into a place of awareness and strength. That one question creates space, space to observe, to think, and to maintain your composure. When someone brings up your past, it often feels like they're putting you on trial, forcing you to defend who you were. But when you calmly ask why now, you turn the spotlight around. Suddenly, they're the ones being questioned. The focus moves away from your past and toward their motives. Why this moment? Why this topic? What's really behind this? That's where the power of Stoicism comes in, maintaining emotional distance and responding with clarity instead of impulse. Epictetus said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." And that's exactly what happens when you respond with a question instead of a defense. You reclaim your emotional control. By doing so, you've already taken back the power. You're no longer reacting. You're observing. You're no longer the target. You're the calm within the storm. The beauty of that question, "Why are you bringing this up now?" is that it forces reflection. If the person's intentions are genuine, it makes them pause. Maybe they'll realize their words aren't helping, that they're reopening wounds unnecessarily. You've held up a mirror to their actions, without anger or judgment. But if their motive is to hurt you, to use your past as a weapon, then this question exposes them. It forces them to confront themselves. They'll either scramble to justify their behavior, or they'll realize they have no real reason at all. Either way, the power shifts instantly from them to you. This simple question doesn't just stop the attack. It redirects the entire conversation. It transforms it from emotional chaos into quiet reflection. Because now, instead of you defending your past, they're defending their intentions. And if their goal was to hurt you, your calmness will unsettle them more than any argument ever could. The question itself becomes a shield, a quiet act of strength that disarms without aggression. So when someone throws your past at you, don't fall into the trap of reacting. Pause, breathe, and ask, "Why are you bringing this up now?" It doesn't matter what their answer is. What matters is that you've taken back control of your emotions and the direction of the conversation. You've shifted from being defensive to being in command. That's the power of awareness, the ability to choose your response rather than be consumed by impulse. In that moment, you've already reclaimed your story, your calm, and your peace. This question is one of the most powerful emotional tools you can carry. It pulls the conversation out of the past and into the present, where real growth happens. It makes the other person face themselves, their reasons, their behavior, their motives. You're no longer the target. You've placed the mirror in front of them. And if they still insist on dragging your past into the light, that's their choice. But now, you decide how much power they'll have over you. So next time, don't defend. Don't explain. Just ask, calmly, and with full awareness. Why are you bringing this up now? You'll be surprised at how everything changes. Not just the tone of the conversation, but the strength you feel within yourself. Because by asking that one question, you're not only reclaiming your peace, you're reclaiming your power. Think of Nelson Mandela. He spent 27 years in prison, nearly 3 decades of pain, loss, and confinement. His past was filled with unimaginable hardship. Yet when he was released, he didn't carry that past as a burden. He didn't let it define him. He transformed it. Mandela took his suffering and turned it into purpose, not only for himself, but for an entire nation. His scars weren't marks of weakness. They were symbols of endurance. Proof that even in the darkest chapters, the seeds of transformation can take root. That's where true power lies. In the moment you stop allowing your past to weigh you down, and instead let it lift you up. Every mistake, every loss, every painful memory has the potential to become the very thing that propels you forward. Because the truth is simple. We're not defined by what's happened to us or by what we've done. We're defined by how we rise after it. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That single insight captures everything the Stoics believed, that growth begins the moment we choose response over reaction. When you stop seeing your past as a prison and start seeing it as a teacher, everything changes. You no longer apologize for who you were. You begin to appreciate who you've become. The difference between someone trapped in their past and someone who has moved beyond it isn't in the mistakes they've made. It's in the mindset they carry. We've all stumbled. We've all fallen. We've all wished we could undo certain moments. But Stoicism reminds us, it's not about erasing our past. It's about transforming it into wisdom. It's about taking full responsibility for what happened while refusing to let it define who we are now. Instead of carrying guilt and shame, we carry the lessons we've learned. And that's what allows us to move forward. Look at your own life for a moment. Think about how many times you've revisited a mistake or a painful event, only to see it differently years later. That's growth. That's perspective. When you stop fighting your past, when you finally stop running from it, you begin to realize something powerful. Your past was never a burden. It was a blueprint. Every challenge, every setback, every scar, it all guided you here. Your scars aren't proof of weakness. They're evidence of your resilience. They show that you've endured, that you've learned, that you've grown. This is the heart of Stoic philosophy. We cannot control what happens to us, only how we respond. Life will test us. People will judge us based on old stories. But we are the ones who decide how much power those things will hold. So when someone brings up your past, don't shrink in shame. Stand tall and say, "I've learned from it." This isn't about pretending everything was fine or that you're proud of it all. It's about accepting the fullness of your experience, the beauty and the pain alike, and finding wisdom within it. Your past doesn't have to be a cage. It can become a bridge, leading you toward a wiser, stronger, more grounded version of yourself. When others try to use your history to tear you down, remember this. Your past isn't your prison. It's your power. Every crack, every failure, every painful chapter, those are the places where the light enters. They're proof that you've survived. Proof that you've grown stronger because of everything you once thought would break you. So the next time someone tries to define you by who you were, simply say, "I've learned from it." Don't let them use your past as a weapon. Let it be your armor. Let it show just how far you've come and how much further you're willing to go. You are not your mistakes. You are not your failures. You are the person who rose from them. And when you truly own that truth, no one can take your power away.